Let me tell you what breaks most consultants. The belief that you have to choose between cold calling strangers or posting on LinkedIn 7 times a week to build a business. Cold calling feels soul crushing. Daily posting will burn you out, and hoping for referrals creates feast or famine cycles. So you end up stuck. No pipeline, no predictable revenue, just panic. Here's the truth, my friend. You don't need to cold call. You don't need to post every day. You don't need to beg for referrals. What you need is a system that runs predictably without burning you out. So today, I'm breaking down the exact system that I built for clients in the Booked Busy Paid Accelerator to help consultants and fractional executives and experts go from zero pipeline to 10 or more qualified calls per month. No cold calling, no daily posting, no referral dependency. By the end of this episode, you're going to have the framework to build it for yourself. So let's get into it. I'm Luis Baez. I spent over 15 years in sales leadership and revenue enablement, and I've been recruited to work at LinkedIn, Google, Uber, and Tesla. I've contributed over 600 million in revenue impact, and now I advise consultants, fractional executives, and expert-based business owners who are stuck in that feast and famine cycle. And this episode is not a theory, my friend. It's the system that I've built in my firm and the system that I build for others in the Accelerator. We're covering 5 sections in this episode. The first, I'm going to get into the Broken Playbook and why the traditional client acquisition methods are failing. And I'm going to get into what actually works. The second section is about the Outbound Engine that I mentioned and how it is that we generate 10 or more calls every month without cold calling. Third, I'm going to get into content and how to build authority without posting every day. Fourthly, I'm going to get into how to build a referral engine so that you can activate your network without begging. And then to close out the episode, we're going to talk about the complete system. I'm going to talk about how all of these lanes work together to create predictable pipeline for your business. So let's get into it. And let's begin with why the old playbook is broken. Most consultants are running one of 3 plays. And I'm going to tell you right now, my friend, all 3 of them are broken. The first play is the cold caller. This is the consultant who believes that volume solves everything. Make 100 calls, book 2 meetings, close 1 deal. The math works technically, but here's what the math doesn't account for: the psychological cost of 98 rejections, the voicemails that never get returned, the emails that get ignored or reported. And then there's the imposter syndrome spiral that happens when you hear, I'm not interested, about 50 times a week. I've watched consultants try this sprint. They last about 3 weeks before they quit, not because they're weak, but because it's brutal. And here's the thing: cold calling worked when decision makers actually answered their phones and when gatekeepers were easier to get past, right? That's when buyers didn't have things like caller ID. But now your call goes straight to voicemail if you're lucky. Let's talk about the second type of consultant. That's the daily poster. This is a consultant who believes that the algorithm rewards volume. So they post every day. They post carousels, videos, they create polls, they post selfies, they show up, they try to create visibility and stay top of mind for everyone. And look, I get the logic. More content equals more reach, equals more clients. But here's what actually happens when you spend 2 hours a day creating content. You're chasing engagement. You watch your analytics obsessively and you start posting things you didn't even believe or don't really like because you think the algorithm will like it. And then after 6 months, you're burned out. You resent LinkedIn and your pipeline is still empty because here's the truth: LinkedIn doesn't reward volume, it rewards engagement. And engagement comes from value, not frequency. Then there's the third play, the referral hoper. This is the consultant who says, I just get clients through referrals, which is great when it works, but referrals aren't a system. They're luck with a professional name. You can't control timing, you can't control volume and quality. So when referrals dry up, and believe me, they always do, you panic. And then you go back to play one or play two, trying to do the most for the algorithm. Here's what you need instead, my friend. What you need is a system that just runs predictably across three different lanes. The first lane is outbound. It's all about being proactive, where you control the volume. You're never wondering when your next call is happening. The second lane is all about that content, but doing it strategically so that you build authority over time instead of chasing that instant gratification. And then the third lane is your referrals, right? And yes, we want to activate your network, right? But we're not going to do this in a way that's based on hope and intuition. You're going to engineer your results. Now I want to show you how each one of these works. Here's how you build the outbound engine. First, let's get something straight. We're not cold calling. What we're doing is warm outreach on LinkedIn, and there's a massive difference. A cold call is interrupting someone's day with a pitch that they didn't even ask for. Warm outreach is about starting a conversation with context that they care about. And here's how that works. Step one is I want you to define your ideal client. And I want you to be specific, not just like anyone who needs your help. VP of people at Series B startups with 100 to 300 employees scaling fast and their hiring systems are broken. Or chief financial officers at manufacturing companies generating 50 to 200 million in revenue who are struggling with margin compression, right? I want it to be that specific as far as who it is that you're reaching out to. I want you to write this down, boil it down to one sentence that's very clear for you to understand. Then the second step in building that outbound process and engine for yourself is I want you to build your list of prospects on LinkedIn Sales Navigator. I want you filtering by title, industry, company size, funding stage, right? I want you to look for no less than 100 folks who match this ideal client profile, ideally 1,000. Just for statistical significance, as far as making it worth your while to drum up enough data to know whether these are your folks or not. And yes, I am talking about LinkedIn Sales Navigator, which does include a monthly subscription cost. But if you're serious about doing outbound and doing it on your terms, it's a non negotiable and it is absolutely worth it. The third step in building out your outbound is doing your research, right? Not what does their company do type of research, but like real deeper human research. What did they say in their last post last week? Did their company just announce something? Did that person get promoted? Are they hiring? Are they expanding? What you're looking for is what I call the human interrupt, not the pattern interrupt, the human interrupt. And that's the thing that's happening in their world right now that makes your message relevant. And then the fourth step is I want you to write your message using my human interrupt method. I teach it. It's in my LinkedIn profile, on my YouTube, on my website, right? Here's how that framework works. The first line in reaching out is you want to reference something specific, their post, their company news, or recent initiative. The second line of your message is all about just offering relevance, value, insight, a framework, a case study, something for them to actually chew on and also to establish why they should pay attention to you. And then the third line of that message is just a very low friction invitation, right? Just sharing something resourceful like a playbook, offering that up, offering advice, offering a quick call, right? And that is how I want you rounding out that message. And this is what it looks like in practice. Let's say that you find a VP of people who posted about struggling to onboard 30 new hires in a quarter. A bad message to that person would be, hey, I'm an organizational design consultant. Can we chat? That's a cold call in written form, right? It's you pitching them when they didn't even ask. Delete, next, chopped, right? A good message looks like this. Hey, I saw your post about onboarding 30 people this quarter. We solved this exact problem at this other company in your city by building a modular onboarding system that cut time to productivity by 40%. I'm happy to share the playbook if you think this would be useful, right? What was the difference there is in that second line, you referenced something specific. You talked about their post about onboarding, right? And then we offered value, the playbook, right? Not a sales pitch. And we made it really low friction. We said, this is a playbook, not, hey, let's book a 30-minute call, right? We're establishing giving them something before asking them for anything and doing it with consent, right? The last step in building your outbound motions in your business is I want you sending 10 messages per day. That's 50 messages per week. And I want you to track your reply rate. I want you to refine your templates, refine the messages based on all the things that people say, oh, I don't need this, I need that, etc. Right? I want you getting to a place where you're getting 25 to 30% in terms of replies. I want a 25 to 30% reply rate for you. And then I want you getting to a place where you book 15% of those calls, right? That should get you to a place where you're booking 6 to 8 calls per week just by doing consistent outbound. Nothing spammy, nothing crazy, nothing overwhelming, just 10 messages a day, keeping it entirely sustainable and keeping it entirely human and relevant, right? Doesn't feel like cold calling. I want it to feel like networking. You're not pitching, you're starting conversations. And because you're leading with something valuable, you're referencing data, you're starting conversations that are good. And even if they don't close immediately, that person might come back down the line or they might turn into referrals. You would be surprised at how many times people have said no to working with me, but then introduced me to someone else where they felt that there was better alignment, really organically and seamlessly because I wasn't being pushy when I didn't need to be. So that's the first lane in the system, the outbound engine, and those 5 steps that I just described for you. Now I want to talk about content. Here's how you build the content lever without burning yourself out. You're probably posting once or twice a day right now, things like motivational quotes, generic advice, links to your website. And the result is you're probably seeing 50 to 100 impressions per post, no engagement, no inbound, right? So no one's sliding into your DMs and saying, hey, I read that I want to book a call with you, right? That's okay, my friend. I'm not here to judge. I'm here to empower, right? Here's what you're going to change. The first change that I want you making with your content strategy is I want you adopting a 0-click strategy. I want you to stop ending posts with read more in my blog or download my framework. These posts get suppressed about 40 to 50% more than other posts on LinkedIn. Why? Because the platform doesn't want you sending people off of LinkedIn. So flip the script. Deliver everything that you've got, all that value, all that juice, all that sauce right in that post. And don't tease it and link out. Here's what that looks like. A bad post would be, hey, are you struggling with employee retention? I just published a new framework, link in the comments, right? You've seen it. You know what I'm talking about. That's just not how we're doing things from now on, my friend. A good post is, hey, we lost our top engineer last month. The exit interview said that he felt disconnected from leadership. So we built a ritual where every Monday, the leadership team shares one decision that they made from the last week and why. Keeping it transparent, human, and simple, we improved our retention from 78% to 94% in 3 months. What changed, right? That was all value. It was all in the post. I didn't have to click anywhere else to find out, right? And what happens with a post like that? You start to see thousands of impressions. You start to see tens and hundreds of likes. You start to see 20 or more comments. You start to see 100 profile views. And then ultimately, you start to see 2 or 3 DMs asking to work with you, jump on a call with you, pick your brain, right? That's what I want for you. So the first change you're going to make, my friend, is you're going to adopt a no-click strategy. You're going to leave it all on the floor for everyone to see. The second change is that I want you to be story driven, not advice driven. Stop posting generic advice like everyone else. Here are 5 ways to improve your onboarding process. That's fine, but it's forgettable. I want you to start telling stories. Stories activate more synapses in someone's brain. They have to visualize what it is that you're sharing with them, and it's going to sink in a lot better and be more memorable. I want you thinking about sharing client transformations, any mistakes that you've made, any lessons that you've learned, right? Stories will stick, advice doesn't. The third change that I want you making in your approach to your content is I want you to post 3 times a week, not 10. Go from posting once or twice a day to posting, let's say, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, whatever makes the most sense for you and for your industry. Here's the magic: your impressions will go up. Why? The algorithm is expecting that you've had more time to think and to write good posts and create good content instead of just rushing to hit a daily quota. That's why quality will beat frequency every time on a platform like LinkedIn. The fourth change that I want you making to your content strategy is I want you to repurpose. I don't want you creating from scratch over and over and over again. Every post doesn't need to be a new idea. Every client engagement that you have can become 3 LinkedIn posts. Every framework that you teach is a post. Every mistake that you make becomes a post. You're not creating from scratch. You're documenting what you're already doing. One client project over the span of, a month or 2 or 3 months can turn into 10 posts. That's 3 weeks worth of content. Do this and your profile visits are absolutely going to increase, right? Moreover, you're going to start seeing more inbound. You're going to start seeing more people sliding into those DMs wanting to connect with you and learn more from you. Now, before we continue, just a quick note: everything that I'm teaching you today, the outbound system, the content strategy, the referral activation, this is what we work on in the Booked Busy Paid Accelerator. It's where I help consultants, fractional executives, and expert based business owners build the complete revenue systems in their practices. It's how you get clients, how you deliver without burning out, and how you keep cash flowing. If you want to see if the accelerator is right for you, visit bookbusypay.com, book a revenue alignment call with me, and we'll do a vibe check and see if I can help you. All right? Let's keep going, my friend. I want to get into how it is that you build the referral machine. Right now, you finish projects, clients love the work. They say, I'll send people your way, and then nothing happens. Here's why. Referrals don't happen because people forget, or because they don't know who to send, or because you didn't ask at the right time. Referrals are a system, and if you're not running the system, then you're just hoping. So let me break down this referral system for you. In breaking it out, step one, I want you to make it specific. Stop saying, oh, if you know anyone that needs help, send them my way. That's entirely too vague. People hear that and think, I don't know anyone. Make it specific. Hey, I'm looking for 2 or 3 more VP of people at Series B startups just like you, who are scaling from 100 to 300 employees and are also struggling with their structure. Or I want you saying, hey, I'm looking for other CFOs at manufacturing companies who are also dealing 50 million to 200 million in revenue and are also dealing with margin compression. Do you know anyone that I should connect with? Specificity means that your network can visualize who to send your way. The second step in building out this referral engine is to make it timely. The best time to ask for a referral is right after you deliver a win, not 6 months later, not when you're desperate, but right after the win, right after they've had that hit of dopamine and they've got nice things to say. In the wrap up call, when you're done working with them on a project where you've hit a milestone, just say, hey, I'm expanding my practice. I'm looking for 2 or 3 more clients just like you. I want to work with people who get things done, who run with me, who trust me and understand the vision and the method. Do you know anyone else who's dealing with the exact same challenges that you're dealing with? Right? Watch what happens. They'll think for a second and then they'll say, actually, yeah, I can probably introduce you to someone. I know a couple of people on LinkedIn I can introduce you to, right? The third step I want you to take in building out your referral engine is I want you to make it valuable. Don't offer a referral commission. Don't say, oh, I'll give you 10% if they sign. That feels transactional, right? It's not on them to do the selling for you. I want you instead to focus to a shift to a relationship based incentive. I want you to say, hey, if you introduce me and they become a client, I'll be happy to run a free half day workshop for you and your leadership team. Or I want you saying, hey, you know what? I'll give you early access to the framework that I'm building out, right? Relationship, not transaction. I want you focusing on the fact that you've had a win with this person. They've got good things to say about you. And I don't want you muddying that energy by turning them into your salesperson. The fourth step in building out your referral engine is I want you to make it recurring, right? You don't just ask for the referral one time and then never again. I want you building out a quarterly referral activation cadence, right? Every quarter, I want you sending a what's new email to past clients, get them up to date, quick subject line, quick update and a favor. Hey, here's what I've been working on. Here's a recent client win. Here's what I'm looking for. Do you know anyone? And you'll be surprised. More likely than not, you're going to get one or two introductions for every one of those emails that you send out, right? Over time, that starts to compound 4 to 8 referrals, right? And then you do the math, and over 3 years, that one client and their referrals can generate 15 referrals, right? Depending on your closing rate, let's say you close 8 of them, depending on your rates, that's what 300,000 plus in revenue a year from one relationship and those referrals just from doing it consistently, right? Work the math in your favor, my friend. Build the system and watch it all compound. On that note, fifth step in building out your system is I want you to track expansion, right? The best referrals come from people who change roles. When a past client gets promoted or they change companies or they get new responsibilities, I want you reaching out. When they move, they're more likely to bring you with them. And that, my friend, is how you build that referral machine. Not hoping, not asking once and forgetting, but activating your people automatically, systematically, right? Now, I want to talk about how all three lanes work together in building out a complete system: the outbound, the content, and the referrals. Here's what happens when you run all three lanes within your first 90 days, right? Let's break that down. Let's say month one, you're going to launch your outbound. You're going to set up your sales navigator. You'll build your list. You're going to start sending 10 messages a day. That first week, you're likely to book 2 calls. By week 4, you would have booked 8 calls. And by the end of that first month, you're in a position to close 2 or 3 clients. And depending on your rates and what you charge, you're looking at the potential for $50,000 to $75,000 in revenue, right? Outbound starts working, it gives you confidence, and then you go, okay, great. Pull on the next lever. Month 2, start adding your content strategy into the rotation. This is where you start posting 3 times per week instead of every day. At first, you're not going to see very much. You're going to maybe get 50 impressions, minimal engagement, right? But as you keep going, you're going to start to see the compounded effect because you know that content takes time to compound. You've done it before, you know better, right? Meanwhile, the outbound is still generating calls for you. You're still closing clients consistently. You're still generating revenue from that one effort while the content engine is getting all warmed up. That third month in, the system will start to click. Your LinkedIn posts are going to start getting traction. One post is going to hit. It's going to get 4,000 impressions, 15 profile views, 10 DMs in the inbound, right? Your first referrals are going to start to come in. The clients that you close that first month are finishing their engagement with you, right? You asked for introductions, you got 2, right? By the end of this third month, here's what your pipeline can look like if you just start building this system today, month by month, methodically, like I just built out for you, right? Your system could look like 12 calls per month from your outbound efforts. It could look like 2 to 3 calls per month from your content, just from, again, that no click strategy and all the things that we talked about earlier, right? And then you could get 1 to 2 referral calls per month. And then suddenly you've got 15 to 17 qualified calls per month, right? Let's say we get your close rate. You really dial in your questioning, your process, and everything in your sales. We get you to a close rate of 25%. That's 4 new clients per month, right? If we start to increase your average deal size, depending on your level of expertise, let's say we get you to 25K, all of a sudden that becomes 100K per month, right? And you're hitting your first 6-figure month and you're doing it within 90 days. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Beyond those first 3 months, right? Let's get into months 4, 5, and 6. That's where the content starts to compound. You've been doing it consistently. Now you start to see the rewards because your LinkedIn content has been gaining momentum. You're not posting more, you're posting better, right? And then all of a sudden you're getting more inbound because you're getting more impressions, more exposure, right? And then those leads, because they saw the content, they went down a rabbit hole, looked at all the things that you posted before, and they trust you more. Those leads are closing at a much higher percentage, let's say 50, 60%, because they came to you and they already trust you, right? Your outbound engine is still doing its thing. It's still generating 12 calls a month. You're still getting the referrals because you've served clients. You're getting more referrals from more previous clients. And then that starts to look like what, 3, 4 calls a month? You start to add all that up. You're on what, 20, 22 calls a month, right? You're starting to close 6 new clients a month. You're exceeding 150K in revenues, right? You start having problems around getting the help, right? Start getting the team together, start getting all the agents and things in order. Let's fast forward even further out. Let's talk about months 7 to 12. You're almost a year out and making this effort, right? This is where your referrals really start to activate. Those clients that you closed in those first few months that you built out these systems, they're now advocates. They're sending introductions without you even asking, right? They're promoting you because of the results that you drove for them and continue to drive for them. Your referrals start to come up. Your referral close rate goes up because of all the compounded effort of people speaking on your business and your content doing the things that it's supposed to do, right? Referral rate closes above 50%, the highest of all the close rates of all the ways that you get clients, right? Let's talk about what your business could look like a year from today. Let's say your pipeline, about 40% of your pipeline comes from outbound. So that's 10, 12 calls a month. You're in control, right? If you want more volume, you get more volume, gets you more calls, right? You've got the systems in place. You can crank it up or down as you need to. 35% of your pipeline is coming from your content. We're talking 7 to 8 inbound calls every month just from all the authority building of you showing face, speaking up, teaching and sharing and building publicly, right? And then those referrals account for about a quarter of your business. So, 6 to 8 calls a month, right? When you compound these things, well over 20, 25, 30 calls a month, right? We get a close rate in place, an average deal size in place, all above 30% close rate, 30% average deal size. Suddenly, you're raking $250,000 a month. Suddenly, you're running a multi-million dollar business. And here's the part that matters. You're not grinding. You're not posting every day. You're not cold calling. You're running a system. And that system requires 60 to 90 minutes a day on pipeline, taking calls, booking calls, right? Doing the outbound, doing the follow ups, right? Responding to comments, 20 minutes here, 20 minutes there, following up on referrals. Your business becomes predictable, sustainable, and scalable. In that first 90 days, you're building that foundation. And then by month 12, the system is running itself. That's the compound effect. Now, let me give you the playbook to build all this. This is exactly what I want you to do in the next 90 days. Week 1, I want you to set up your outbound engine. Go and subscribe to LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Non-negotiable if you're serious about this. I want you to build out your first list of no less than 100 ideal clients. I want you filtering by title, industry, company size. I want you to write your first 3 message templates using the human interrupt method. I want you to reference something specific, offer some value, make a very low friction ask, right? And I want you to start sending these messages, 10 messages per day. I want you to track your reply rates. I want you to refine your messages. Your goal by the end of week 1 is 50 messages sent. I want you to get 10 to 15 replies. I want you engaging those folks until you have 2 to 3 calls booked. The second week, let's say weeks 2 to 4 of your first 90 days of building this out. I want you launching that content lever. I want you to identify 3 frameworks that you teach. I want you writing them down, and I want them to become the pillars of your content. I want you narrowing down your ideal client profile in 1 sentence, be very, very specific, right? And then I want you thinking about how they spend their time online. And I want you scheduling your first 3 LinkedIn posts. If they're going to be online Monday, Wednesday, Friday, that's when you show up. If this client is ideally on Thursdays and Saturdays and Sundays, and so be it, you know your industry, you know your people. I want you using the 0-click strategy. I want you leaving it all in that post. I want you being story driven. I want you laying the value thick and not driving people away from LinkedIn. That way, the algorithm completely rewards you for all of your effort. By the end of your first month, you should have published 12 posts. And I want you continuously refining your content and keeping your finger on the pulse as far as your analytics. I want you getting to a place where you start to generate over 1,000 impressions of post. And I want you to get to a place where you start to generate 5 or more profile visits from the posts that you'll create and then post on LinkedIn, right? That's all within your first month. Those are your specific items. Moving into the second month, weeks 5 through 8, this is where you start to round out the referral machine. So we talked about, the first month, really being about specific, getting the content engine going, getting your outbound going, right? Now we're moving into going into your past relationships. So I want you to make a list of 10 past clients, your strongest relationships, and I want you to send them a what's new email. I want you sharing a recent win, what it is that you're looking for, and be very specific about asking for the introduction. You can say something like, hey, I'm looking for 2 to 3 other chief financial officers just like yourself at this stage of business who are probably experiencing the same things as you and suffering in silence. Do you know anyone who fits the bill? I'd love to connect with them, right? And I want you following up with anyone who responds. I want you to make it really easy, right? You can offer to send that intro email, right? Write it up for them and just have them forward it, right? Take the cognitive load off for them to just make it really easy for them to just introduce you. And by the end of this month, I want you to get 3 referral introductions, and I want you booking at least 2 referral calls, right? I want you to make this a concerted effort where you follow up and follow through until you get an absolute no from someone. Now we're moving into the third month of the 90-day sprint, and this is where we're going to start to measure and optimize. I want you to track your pipeline each and every week. Right. I want you tracking on the outbound front all the messages you sent, your reply rates, your calls booked. I want you tracking the content that you've published, the impressions that you got, the number of DMs and profile visits. I want you to be able to identify what actually worked for you. And then I also want you tracking your referrals, right? Who did you ask? I want you tracking all the asks. I want you to track all the introductions received, and then all the books that all the calls that you ultimately booked. I want you to get to a place where by making this effort repeatedly, you're getting on 3 to 5 calls a week. I want you drilling down on the numbers. I want you to look at what's working. I want you to double down on the things that will help you find more leverage and start to scale up. Look at what's not working, kill it or fix it. If your outbound reply rate is under 20%, your messaging is off. Time to refine it. If your content isn't getting engagement, I want you to focus to more story driven posts, right? And even think about stepping it up a notch with voice and video. If the referrals are not coming in, then I want you asking more directly and more often, right? I don't be afraid to ask someone like, do you have any hesitation about sending referrals my way? Is there something that I can address with you more directly, right? But I want you to like just seize that opportunity to continue building that relationship. By the end of the third month, I want you getting to a place where you're generating 15 to 20 qualified calls a month, right? That is your 90 days to generating that predictable pipeline, right? That's how we get to that 1 year vision that I shared with you earlier, right? Beyond the 90 days, it's all about scaling the system because once the foundation is built, right, that's where you start to add automation where it makes sense to help you with your LinkedIn outreach and to help you with your email sequences and your follow-ups. You can hire support if the volume demands it, right? You can have a VA step in and do things like list building and doing the research and doing the booking for you. You can have them step in and build your repurposing engine around your content, right? Every client engagement, you can get 10 posts out of it. Every framework you teach, get 5 posts out of it, and just start to watch that compounded effect. Right. By the time you get to month 6, that's where we hit that 20 calls per month threshold, 20 or more, 150K plus revenue potential for the month. By month 12, that's where we're on 25 plus calls per month. That's where we're at 200K plus in revenue thresholds every month. And again, no cold calling, no daily posting, and not depending on all those referrals just exclusively, right? What I've been talking about, my friend, is architecture, architecting your revenue intentionally. And to close out, here's what I want you to take away. You don't need to choose between soul crushing cold calls or burnout inducing daily posting. You need this 3 lane system: the outbound engine, the warm LinkedIn outreach using that human interrupt method to get you calls every month, right? That content lever, 3 strategic posts per week, 0 click, story driven, build authority over time, start building that inbound engine where people slide into your DMs, right? Then there's the referral engine, that quarterly activation. This is what's new in my business, being very specific about the ask, having relationship driven incentives, not being transactional, not asking them to do the selling for you, right? This is where we start to generate 3 to 5 intros every month by doing these things repeatedly. This is also going to be your highest closing rate compared to your outbound or your inbound, right? But run all these 3 lanes and you're going to have predictable pipeline in 90 days. And by month 12, the compounded effect starts to take over. You're generating as many calls as you need a month. You're generating and closing deals consistently a month. You're running a 7-figure firm. And that's not hope. That's not hustle. That's just systems, my friend. If you want to see how this fits into the complete system, how the acquisition connects to delivery and pricing and operations, visit bookbusypaid.com. And if you want to do a vibe check with me and see if I can help you build this, then book a revenue alignment call. This is unhustling, where we build slower, breathe deeper, and adapt faster than the market moves. I'm Luis Baez, and I'm in your corner.